Pickleball Diaries presents Cling on the Court with your host, Lily Brown. Let's go!
Hi, Coach Jeff. Welcome back to Cling on the Court. Let's continue to crack some more code. Are you ready?
Sounds great, Lily.
Okay, so last time we were talking about the strategy of stacking. So let's continue what we were talking about last time. And I want to continue to ask you at the kitchen and during the stacking, what will be the difference for the dinking strategy?
Yeah, usually, you're assuming the other team probably has their weaker player on the right side as well. So the left side player on our team is probably going to hit a lot more straight ahead dinks to try and pressure that right side player a lot more, and try and keep the left side player out of the play on the opposing team. So the right side player on our team is going to do a lot of cross-court dinking, most likely, trying to pressure the right side player on the other team. However, if they're playing a team where the left side player is taking a lot of space and trying to come over and take a lot of court, that right side player is going to have to also occasionally send some straight ahead dinks that would be on the left side player's backhand on the opposite side of the net, to try and keep them honest. Because obviously, if you go cross court exclusively as the right side player, the left side player is going to start reading that and getting themselves involved. So you might want to change it up and occasionally go behind the left side player to the backhand to sort of keep them honest. And again, the left side player on our team is going to play probably a lot more straight ahead, trying to play at the right side player as much as possible, but also trying to occasionally go behind the left side player on the opposite side of the net if that left side player is aggressive and coming over to take a lot of space. And again, going cross court and going back to that left side player's backhand can help keep them honest. The other strategy you might see more of, with a strong left side player that's paired up in front of the right side player who's presumably weaker, as you might see that left side player taking more risk or initiating more firefights or speed ups, where if they feel they have the upper hand in hands battles, they might initiate more speed ups off of the bounce, or maybe a few more flicks out of the air at the player in front of them in an effort to try and get a weak response where they can then take their next counter and finish the point. So those are a few different considerations. And yeah, as the right side player, when you're stacking, there's a chance you'll still get a decent number of shots on your backhand near your inside foot or your left foot. And that's where being a really good backhand dinker from the right side and being able to send that backhand dink back cross court is really important, because you're trying to keep it away from that strong left side player in front of you. So yeah, there's a bunch of different considerations. And again, the dinking patterns will sort of depend a little bit on the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents.
Yeah, so often we see in stacking, the left side player will come during the dinking, will come and take the middle ball, even crossing the middle line, aiming at the right side player's left foot.
Yes, yeah.
And what will be a preferable shot if the left side player take that the backhand dink from the right side, where he or she should send the ball back, go back to the middle, cross court, in front of themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's a frequently occurring situation. So as the left side player, if you're taking balls from the middle of the court with your forehand, you sort of have three options if you're dinking. You can go slightly inside out to the backhand of the left side player on the other team, or you can go straight back around the middle. Ideally, you're probably trying to go to the left side of the right side player, the left foot of the right side player, which would be their backhand. Or you can try and go back behind the right side player to their forehand, but it's a really challenging shot to move over from the left side, take a ball in the middle, and then sort of go back almost on a cross court to the right side player's forehand. And you run the risk there. If you pop the ball up, you're now out of position if they have an attacking forehand out of the air. So that's a shot you're probably not going to hit too much of. So the most common shot you're probably going to want to attempt as the left side player hitting a forehand from the middle of the court is dinking to the left foot of the right side player on the other side of the tee, on the other side of the net. The challenge with that is because it's almost like a straight direction. So your forehand to the backhand of the right side player, it's not much of a sharp angle. So it does give the opportunity for the other left side player, if they're athletic and strong, to come over and take that ball. Then you run the risk there of like, if you don't execute a great dink up the middle as the left side player and you're in the middle of the court to play your forehand, they can quickly send sort of like a more aggressive dink back to your backhand side, and you might have a challenging time recovering back into position to get to your backhand dink. So you've got to do a really good job if you're going to play that forehand from the middle and take it to the backhand of the right side player. You've got to be accurate and you've got to make sure you execute it with precision and keep it low so that they can't burn you and go back behind you.
Yeah. So from what you said, let me see if I understand correctly. So basically, with that, if your partner on your right side partner has a relatively good backhand, probably it's lower risk. It's better let your right side player to take that dink, even when it's on her left foot, right?
Yeah, if you as the right side player have a fairly good backhand dink, so you're good at receiving balls coming towards your left side, which is your backhand, if you're comfortable and really good at neutralizing with your backhand dink from that position, there might not be a need for the left side player to come over. And then some of it will depend also on the height of the ball that you're receiving. So if you and your partner read that the dink that you're receiving is coming higher over the net and is going to sit up a little more, in that case, it might be better for the left side player to come over and they can do something more aggressive with their forehand. But if it's more of like a dead dink or a low trajectory on the dink of the ball that the right side player is receiving, it might make more sense for them to just take their backhand and receive that ball in their backhand and send it back using their backhand, because the left side player, if it's an effective low dink and they come over to try and take it, there's not really a benefit to that because they can't really do anything with it to create any offense. And all they're really doing is probably coming over, playing a really dead dink themselves, but they've taken themselves far out of their position and they might get burned on the next shot if the other team sends the ball to their backhand. So yeah, so if the right side player is a great backhand dink, whenever there's sort of more of a dead dink or low trajectory dink, the right side player can easily just take that because there's not really a benefit to the left side player coming over. But if the dink is traveling high over the net, the left side player might be able to come over and do more damage with their forehand off of a higher bouncing ball.
Yeah. And then if the left side player come and take that ball, they better have a plan after that.
Yeah, wherever they go, they're regardless of where they go, if they're doing something that's sort of just a neutral shot where they're not really trying to create offense, they're going to have to probably have a really quick recovery because the other team's going to likely try and go behind them if they're smart and try and catch them out of position. So yeah, they've got to know what they're doing and why and quickly get back into position.
Yeah. So it actually lead to the next question I want to ask. So usually in stacking, of course, one player will be considered weaker than the other one. And with that, if the right side player or the relatively conceived as weaker player keep getting attacking, when I say attacking is all the ball is sending to that position. And then what should your team do? Like, what should the player being attacked, or she or he should address the ball? Is it just keep resetting, keep ball going, and where the ball is supposed to go, and more cross court? Like what we can do to involve our stronger partner more?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a few answers. So sometimes the reality is just the two right side players may just, if they're fairly good at dinking, they may just end up in a lot of cross court exchanges. And if they're good at sending their dinks cross court with good direction, they may both do a good job of keeping the left side player out of the play. The challenge occurs when one of those right side players is weaker and starts making more unforced errors. Then it's like, okay, what do you do? That right side player who's less consistent is being isolated and it's leading to more mistakes. So one strategy could be that the right side player, it seems a bit counterintuitive, but the right side player may actually want to hit more dead dinks to the stronger left side player that's in front of them.
Hmm.
Um, because as long as it's a dead dink, that left side player isn't going to be able to really move that right side player with the next shot because they're playing straight on. So if the right side player goes to the strong left side player that's directly in front of them, as long as that dink that they send is a dead dink, then there's not much that can come back that can hurt them. Um, and it may also entice that left side player on the opposite side of the net to then go cross court to try and create something. And if they go cross court, that then relieves pressure from the right side player. And now the left side partner is back involved in the play. So that's one instance. Sometimes too, you'll see like the right side player, if they're being picked on a lot, throwing in the occasional lob is a good idea too. So like lobbing over the left side player or lobbing diagonally between the left side player and the right side player. And sometimes just that threat of the lob or the left side player thinking that a lob is possible may keep them more honest and keep them a little bit more on their heels. So that's one strategy. The other strategy is to reverse your stack. So let's say the right play side player is a little weaker and the left side player that's in front of them on the opposite side of the court is speeding up aggressively at them. So regardless of the quality of the dink that left side player is receiving, they're taking the opportunity to pressure by speeding up on the weaker right side player. You might want to reverse your positioning or reverse the stack and get the left side player in front of the what would be the left side player, bring them over to the right. So now
Yeah.
they're facing head on and it's the two strong players head on. That can relieve a bit of like aggressive pressure that the right side player is experiencing. The challenge with that is if you take that perceived right side player who's weaker and place them on the left side and now they're cross court from the strong left side player, is if that other left side player is really strong, they may really like eat them
Yeah.
up with like strong topspin dinking. So all that to say is it depends a little bit if the right side player in a partnership is struggling and they're sort of losing the battle on the right side. You have to identify in what situation or in which way are they losing the battle? Is it just pure consistency in dinking? Is it because the left side player on the other side of the court is speeding up at them and they can't counter very well? So you would have to make adjustments, but identify what the struggle is and then plan accordingly.
Yeah. That's amazing answers. Thank you. So now we're going to a bit more complicated situation is righty and a lefty. So and with that, I'd like you to give us two situations, and one is righty lefty, but it's two like the same gender, say two guys or two female, and then lefty and righty combo in the mix. So I do think it's different, right? Like especially righty lefty in the mix, and now the females on the left, and then the forehand, and also the female, like as I said, on the left, you need to be good at your backhand dinkings. So with that, like I will leave the floor to you, and then yeah, give us more analysis.
Okay, so it's taking each of those individually. Yeah. So if you have two players, let's say they're equal level. So regardless of gender, it could be two females, two males, could be mixed, but we'll say that the skill level, generally speaking, is equal for the left-handed player and the right-handed player. You would probably want to stack in a way that puts both forehands in the middle. And then once you do that, you would probably play fairly conventional positioning in terms of like you would probably respect the X, as people would say. Like when you're at the kitchen, you play a little more standard, like respect the X. So when the ball's coming from a certain location, this player is going to handle it. And then when the ball's coming from another location, this player is going to take it. So you play more sort of straight up standard positioning where one player isn't encroaching too much on the other player's territory. Because again, if it's two forehands in the middle, then it's really whoever's closest to the ball should be taking it, and no one should be overextending into the other person's territory. So that would be when you get to the kitchen. And then if you're talking about after the serve at the baseline and you have two forehands in the middle, then really like probably whoever just has the better third shot drive. So if one of the players has a little bit better third shot drive or maybe a more reliable drop, that person should be taking up more space when you have both forehands in the middle of the court. So yeah, when you have a righty and lefty, you should try and get those forehands in the middle of the court to dominate. But in terms of who's taking balls in the middle, you'd play more sort of standard zones and positions where just whoever is closest to the oncoming ball will take the shot.
You mentioned before is the skill level is more equal, but now we say, okay, so the right side lefty is a stronger player, and the left side, the righty, is a weaker player. So now what do we do?
Yeah, so now sort of it goes back to sort of classic stacking rules. So even though you've got maybe two forehands in the middle of the court, whoever's got the more dominant forehand is going to take up more territory, right? So again, yeah, two forehands in the middle, but one player clearly has a stronger forehand, like they're more of a threat. They can speed up off the bounce, or if anything's around the height of the net or higher, they're really dominant with finishing with their forehand. That player should be taking more space. And again, before a game starts, you would define sort of what that space is when you're at the kitchen, like how far over is the player going to come? And then, it comes down to communication after that. So you've defined sort of roughly what those zones are. And then really, usually it should be the more dominant player who you've both agreed is going to take more space. That player should be really doing a great job of communicating when they're going to encroach more on the other player's side by saying mine or got it. And they should be trying to communicate as early as possible so that the other player can sort of give that space to that player. So yeah, so if two forehands in the middle, but one person's got the stronger forehand, that player needs to dominate more around the middle of the court.
Yeah. So then when you say more dominant, like maybe the two players, they should pre-communicate, say how much percentage of the court you want to take, or like, right? Like the share, how do we share the responsibility?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, like you need to communicate that before the game starts, right? So just like visually take your paddle and sort of draw imaginary lines. Say like, yeah, when the ball's coming from here, I'm going to come over this much to your side roughly. And you hopefully agree on that or get agreement on it and define what that space is. Because if you don't, it's just going to lead to confusion. But yeah, you should sort of define what that space is and then yeah, be really good at communicating when the points are actually being played. And it's, two forehands in the middle. That's tough because both players are going to be used to taking the ball when it's around the middle, even if it's slightly to their partner's side. So when you have two forehands in the middle, you often get a lot of paddle crashing and paddles banging into each other. But again, it's just you have to define it beforehand and communicate as best as you can and as early as you can to avoid confusion.
Yeah, thank you. So we talked about basically all the way from baseline to the kitchen when you stack and as a serving team. So now we get to more advanced stacking. So we have half stacking, 3/4 stacking, and full stacking.
Mhm.
So do you mind to explain to our audience, like, what these are and what's the strategy supposed to be?
Yeah, full stacking usually just refers to as the serving team, you're always going to stack in order to get your stronger player on their preferred side, which generally is the left side. And that also means, so full stacking also means you're going to stack as the returning team, meaning if you have a stronger player that you would like to be on the left, even when they're positioned on the right side to return, they're going to return, and then you're going to switch when we call it unwinding the stack. You're going to unwind the stack so that player you want on the left side, even when they're returning a serve from the right side, they run into position on the left side at the non-volley zone. So when we say full stack, it means you're always going to get your optimal positioning, whether you're serving or returning. And then half stack usually means people are usually referring to the fact that they're going to stack when they're the serving team, but they're not going to do so as the returning team. And there's usually the reason for that is like stacking as the returning team is just harder because when we unwind the stack, which means make the return and run to the opposite side of the court, if we don't execute a good return, or if the serve was really wide and it pulled us out of position, it can make it really hard for the returner to get all the way across the court into their preferred position. So that would be why people don't stack on the return. And that's when we refer to half stack. You only stack as the serving team. And then there's three-quarter stack, which is where you stack as normal as the serving team, and then you'll unwind the stack as the returning team, but usually only when the stronger returner is the one who'd be making the return and unwinding the stack. So people do three-quarter stack generally. An example could be if you have the right side player, the player you would like on the right side, if they're weaker and they're returning a serve from the left side, you may not unwind the stack because maybe they don't have the confidence or ability to make a strong return and have the mobility or movement skills to get into their position on the opposite side at the non-volley zone. So that's what we call three-quarter stack, where only the strong player will unwind the stack after a return of serve. And when the weaker player is returning serve, they will not unwind the stack. So those are the differences. I hope that made sense.
It makes sense. But I think it's once you from half stacking to full stacking, seems like it's getting harder and harder because you have a longer trajectory to run to cover the court. And yeah, there's like I think pros and cons on the stacking you want to choose.
Yeah.
And so for our audience, what would you recommend? Like,
Yeah, so a lot of it'll depend. So let's say that you want to stack. So generally speaking, you have one player who you'd like to be on the left and one player you'd like to be on the right in an ideal world. So you've determined that. So stacking as the serving team, that's pretty straightforward. Once you get used to like keeping score and just remembering where you are, like the stacking as the serving team is quite straightforward because after you hit the serve, you have a fair amount of time to get into your position, and then you're just kind of unfolding the point normally. But as the returning team, deciding whether you're going to stack as the returning team, a lot of that will depend on the quality of the serve from your opponents. So I know sometimes when I'm playing with partners where we've agreed we would like to stack, we'd like to have one player on one side or the other. If we're facing someone with a really, really fast, deep serve, and they're also accurate, so they can like serve wide, fast, and deep, it makes it really tough to execute effective returns when you're concerned about A, making a good deep return, and B, getting all the way to the non-volley zone on the opposite side of the court. So in those situations, that would be a situation where you probably don't want to unwind the stack and you just say, okay, we're going to stay in our positions, make the best return you can make and just go straight forward instead of straight forward and across. So again, you have to really know the strengths of the serving team. And you might adapt based on who's serving at you. And then you might also just adapt, regardless of the strength of the serving team, your own return abilities and your own mobility and movement skills. Like there are just some players at all levels of play who just don't move forward very quickly after a return. And even if the server's not that strong, the idea of making a return and then running all the way in on a diagonal to the non-volley zone on the opposite side from where you were returning from, that can be very challenging. So you might not want to do it because it might not benefit you, because if you don't get to that position on time, it leaves a lot of court open for the serving team to drive a third shot and expose that opening.
I think you just unveiled the next topic in our next episode, which is how do you do stacking as the return team?
Yeah,
So
there's a lot
many.
more to consider when you're returning. There's more to consider because there's a lot more movement involved. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
where do you send the serve? First of all, do you unwind the stack? Is there a beneficial spot to send the return to make it easier to unwind the stack? Yeah, there's more to consider for sure.
Wow, amazing. I think you get us more excited and I want to hear what will be in the next episode.
Hopefully,
because
hopefully.
it's true, like when you stack on your side, you need to think about how to organize more aggressive attacking, and you're also facing the stacking on the other side,
Mhm.
recognize their weakness, and how to, like, by knowing the weakness of their stacking, how to launch a very effective attack over there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So perfect. And so for our topic today, and is there anything you want to add for the stacking team as the serving team? And
Um,
any suggestion, anything they can practice, they can drill?
yeah, actually, I do have a couple of suggestions that might be helpful. So if you're stacking, and one of the reasons you're stacking, or the main reasons you're stacking, is that the left side player has a really good forehand drive on their third shot. There are some ways in which you can serve that might maximize the chance of that left side player getting more returns up the middle where they can then dictate with their forehand. So, a couple of examples of that would be, if you're stacking and you want the left side player to get more opportunities to dictate with their forehand, whoever's serving from the left, so let's say the right side player is serving from the left side, so they're going to serve and then they have to go back over to the right side. If they serve wide, so if they can serve out wide to the backhand of a right side player, so they're serving from the left side of the court diagonally and they can serve wide, there's a little more chance that that return of serve will come diagonally back towards the middle or
Mm-hmm.
cross court, because as the returner, when you're receiving a wide ball on your backhand on the left side of the court, hitting a down the line return can be very difficult because you're receiving the ball in an angle. So going back down the line is really tough, because if you catch the ball even just a smidge late, there's a good chance you return the ball wide if you try and return down the line. So a lot of times, if you serve wide to a left side player's backhand, you can get more diagonal returns that come off their backhand towards the middle of the court, or even cross court towards the left side serving player, which in
Mm-hmm.
this case is the stronger player. So using wide serves from the left side can maximize the likelihood of getting a more attackable or return that comes more around the middle to the left side player. And again, if we want the left side player taking more thirds because they're more of a threat, that would be a really good tactic or strategy to use. And then similar to that, if we serve wide from the right side, um, if we serve wide from the right-hand side, sometimes that provides a good diagonal angle for the right side returner to make a really strong angled return. That will make it harder for the left side serving team player to get involved. So serving up the tee when the serve is being hit from the right side of the court, serving up the tee can make more of a straight return from the returners, which makes it easier for the left side player to get into a position to use their forehand on the third shot and take control. So where you serve as the serving team, there's ways you can serve to try and get a type of return that'll benefit you as the serving team and hopefully get the left side player to take more of the thirds if you think that's what you want. There might be scenarios where you actually don't want the left side player hitting the third. You want the left side player getting into the non-volley zone because the right side player hits really good third shot drops or is really good at keeping the ball low with their third shot. You might want the left side player getting in tight to the non-volley zone where they can do more intercepting and poaching. So it depends on your strategy, but you should think about who do you want to take the thirds and why? And is there any ways in which you can serve that maximize the chance of getting what you want on the third shot?
Yeah, that's amazing. Great tips. Thank you. So from what you said, if the right side player serve, if they want the left side player more involved, then maybe I should serve wide.
Yeah, from the left side, wide serves from if we're talking about serving against right-handed players,
Yeah.
generally, and it might not even matter if they're right-handed or not, but from the left side, if you serve wide, you maximize the chance of the ball coming back towards the middle or towards the left side player, which if you want the left side player taking more thirds, that would be a great serve to use. And then from the right side, if you're serving from the right side, serving up the tee ensures that the next return comes back more straight because there's less angles for them to return. So it makes it easier for the left side player to get in position to take the third. Whereas the opposite of that would be if you're serving from the right side and serve a wide diagonal, that also gives a wide diagonal response opportunity for the returner, which in theory can make the return go away from the left side player, making it harder for the left side player to get involved in the third shot. So
yes.
So where you send your serve, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm just echoing what you said. It based on if you want your left side player to take more serve, or you want your left side player do more poach, do more be dominance at the middle at the kitchen, then the right side player will try to take more serve. Then the serving strategy will be different, almost opposite, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. So if you want the right side player to take more thirds because they're really great at setting the point up with their third shot, and you want the left side player to be able to impose themselves and poach more, from the right side, if you're serving from the right side, wide serves might maximize the chance that the next ball comes a little bit more towards the right side player so that they can hit more third shots. Yeah. And then if you want the right side player taking more thirds when the serve is being struck from the left side, possibly serving up the tee might be a good way to get the right side player involved in hitting more thirds. Because again, if you any serve up the tee, whether we're talking about from the right side or the left side, serving up the tee gives less potential angles on the return. So it can make it easier for either player to take the third. And then if we serve wide, usually if we serve wide, that can create more diagonal returns. So that might be something you avoid if you want to try and get an easier return that's closer to the middle or easier for a particular player to get.
Yeah, amazing. We're having a lot of geometry lessons here.
Yeah, and and that's the thing is like, I don't think on average, I don't think a lot of people think enough about these things when they're playing. So, you should put when you're the server, even if you haven't talked about it with your partner, you should be thinking about ways that you can create the type of return that you and your team would want. So, where do you place your serve and why, and what kind of return might that help you get so that you can be more dominant off of the third shot. And that's something we talked about in the last episode with serving strategies. So, regardless of whether you're stacking or not, we should always be thoughtful about why we're hitting certain serves and what we're hoping to get back in return when we hit certain serves.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so everyone go back, listen to previous episode, do your homework.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, time just goes by so quickly. I think it's time for us to end this episode. And I think we all know what we will talk about next one. And I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll cover it more on the returning team stacking. Yeah.
Yes.
Looking
Thank you.
forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and have a good day. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon next week.
Thanks, Lily. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.